Rumour has it Rachel Reeves is being urged to gamble with your cash. That's my interpretation of one of the news reports that I read this evening. Every day and every week and every month that goes by gives me another reason to question whether the members of this government really understand the British public and whether they have any clue really what they're doing. And I'll explain why I think that. Because Rachel Reeves is now reportedly under pressure to cut the tax relief on cash ISAs. Now, you don't need to fully understand ISAs to enjoy this video. And by the way, we are here on my money channel, so please do subscribe here if you want to learn to create wealth, build businesses, eliminate debts and those kind of things. And of course, a brutally honest analysis of what I see in the news and how it applies to money and your wealth. Now, as I say, Rachel Reeves is being encouraged now. She's under pressure to cut the tax relief on cash ISAs. Why? Because they say that there are billions of pounds held up in cash ISAs that could be making more money if they are put into riskier investments. But that is exactly the point. Because a cash ISA is a safe place for you to put your money to get a little bit of tax incentive to earn interest without paying the tax on that interest. You can put in up to £20,000. That is frozen at least until 2030, although the government can always change these things. But you get tax-free interest on anything up to £20,000 that you put into one of these accounts. Now, the interest is generally relatively low, but that's because it's just like a savings account with a little bit of an added benefit of the tax relief on the interest. If you wanted to be a little bit more adventurous with investments, a little bit more risky, there are different ISAs you can go for. You can go for a cash and shares ISA or various other things. I've got another video, actually much longer than this one's going to be. It's about 18 minutes long, explaining what ISA accounts are in a great amount of detail. I'll link that below, and another reason for you to subscribe to this channel, it will be videos like this where I'll go into great depth and analysis on what these things are. Please do go and check that out, and you'll understand ISAs a lot more than perhaps maybe you do now. Or maybe you're an expert, I don't know. But the point of this video is that she's now under pressure to free up the cash in these cash ISAs so that they can be directed towards higher risk investments towards their economic growth targets. Now, there's a couple of ways of growing an economy, and there are a few ways of growing businesses, and there are a few ways of growing your money. Now, the fastest way, bar none, of growing your money happens to be the riskiest way of growing your money. If you were to put all of your money on the roulette, say, and you won, then obviously you're going to get a massive return. Now, I am not encouraging anyone to put any money on the roulette whatsoever, let alone all of it. But that's obviously risk versus reward. Now, ISAs are relatively low interest, generally speaking, because it's just like a savings account, that you have a little bit of a tax incentive. For those people that don't want to risk their money, they don't want to risk their capital, they just want to stack the cash away as a bit of a tax incentivized savings account, and they don't want the risk associated with stocks and shares and investments and all these kind of things. Now, in my other video, I go into a great amount of depth as to where you can split the money and whether you get someone to manage it for you, whether you pick them yourself and those kind of things. And I think I promised I will at some point go into how we choose those things and what we choose to do. Now, of course, none of this is financial advice, but you can choose to do what you wish. And if you choose to go and pay for independent financial advice, retirement advice, and those kind of things, you can do that as well. But even then, very often when you do that, you end up paying the person that is going to advise you so much money in fees and so on that you probably just as well doing some of this yourself if you learn how to do it yourself, because a lot of the financial advisors don't necessarily know how to predict markets any better than you might. If you were to pick, let's say, a large, stable company, then obviously the returns might be lower because it's a safer company, whereas if you pick a relatively new or bleeding edge tech company that is new and growing rapidly, obviously that is a riskier company. And so you stand to have a bigger return on your money, but it's also a higher risk. But you don't need a financial advisor to tell you that. At least, I certainly hope not. But the whole point of this is, if she's thinking or being advised and under pressure to move the goalposts with the tax incentive of a cash ISA, this literally means that they would be pushing you then to move your money into higher risk areas. And I personally think that's wrong. Because as I read, somebody quoted to say that people do like to pot their money. They like to put money in certain places for certain things. And some people, they like to have a small amount in higher risk investments and the rest in safe or medium investments. For example, some people will only put money in ISA accounts or very low risk shares and things like that, because they don't want their capital to be at risk. So they choose not to put their money into higher risk investments. Now, of course, some firms who are keen to help manage these investments and things like that, and even advise and get involved in all sorts of steps along the way with this money that could be freed up. I think we're talking hundreds of billions of pounds here that's tied up in cash ISAs. Of course, they would want to be involved if that gets freed up, because then there's all sorts of areas that they can get involved with where they can move this money and where they can invest this money and where they can advise to invest this money. And it opens up a massive area, because if people no longer have this incentive, then they will obviously have to put that money somewhere else. And it's then a choice of leaving in a standard savings account, whereby you're obviously going to pay tax on the interest, because any interest that you earn on standard savings, you add to your income. And that's why the cash ISAs are an incentive in the first place. But thereby, it would be eliminating this choice of a safe place to put the money if you don't want that risk of investing the money. So this is just something else that I read today, and I am staggered that so many things are being undone and overturned. And for that little bit of incentive that some people have to put that money in a cash ISA, it is going to wipe that out if they change these rules. I don't really think they will. I certainly hope they don't, because I think people do want to have this choice, a very safe choice of putting their money there. Just a point on the safety. There is a protection limit of £85,000 per institution if that institution goes bankrupt. And that would be the umbrella company. So you do need to check the overall owner company of wherever you've got this money saved up. And I'm referring, of course, to the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, which is the protection limit per person per authorised firm. So it's the overall authorisation that is limited, not necessarily the underlying companies. And so we've actually seen problems with this, both with the FSCS and with insurance payouts, where the overall umbrella company had multiple companies underneath with multiple policies. They would only pay out on one of the policies, because their terms and conditions said if it's one of their umbrella companies, then they will only pay out on one of the policies. So I thought that was rather unfair, but that's what the rules said, and that's what the law said, that's what the terms said, and so that's what it was limited to. So do check those things out as well. And if you want to learn more about ISAs, such as they are at the moment, I will link this video of mine below. Go and have a watch of that. And please do subscribe to the channel. And I hope to bring you some of my small experience in creating wealth and help you to do the same. So with that, let me know what you think about all this madness in the comments below. Please do subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you for watching.